Hello, movie fans. I saw a post on Reddit the other day that reminded me of just how much I love the man, Brendan Fraser, and I couldn't help but start watching his movies again. We will probably do several of his movies in the coming weeks, but there isn't a more fitting place to start than with his movie, the 1999 masterpiece, The Mummy. So let's put on our explorer hats and find some camels, because this is Redeye Reviews. You all know what time it is by now, so we're going to start with that good old plot synopsis. If you don't want this 22-year-old movie spoiled for you, I think we're probably in the realm of saying too bad. But I guess if you've been so busy the last 22 years that you just haven't gotten around to watching this movie, sure, skip to this old dusty timestamp here, and the rest of us will see you in this century. We start in Thebes, Egypt, 1290 BC. High priest Imhotep is having an affair with Namun. We'll call her Anuk, the mistress to the pharaoh. When the pharaoh discovers their affair, they murder him. Imhotep successfully flees, and Anuk takes her own life, believing that Imhotep can bring her back from the dead. He steals her body and brings her to Hamunaptra. These names are going to kill me. The city of the dead. Right as he brings her back to life, the pharaoh's guard finds him and stops the ritual. They kill him in the worst way imaginable by wrapping him alive and letting flesh-eating beetles eat him. These sacred guardians then vow to always protect this burial site to prevent the return of this evil man. Cut to 1926, Rick O'Connell is basically a treasure hunter, and while getting in a pretty much a small-time war with these locals, he encounters some weird magical happenings, but has little time to investigate as he is quickly captured. Meanwhile, Jonathan Carnahan and his sister Evelyn come across this intricate box and a map that apparently leads to Hamunaptra. Being an inspiring Egyptologist, Evelyn learns her brother stole this box from our friend Rick. They track him down and make a deal with the local military to save his life, just as long as he guides them to the city of the dead. While on their adventure, they meet some good old American cowboys, who also want to find the city and claim its treasure. They are led by Rick's cowardly acquaintance, Benny. The group makes it to the city, and despite being threatened with their lives by the leader of the local guardians, they start digging anyways. While looking for the Book of Amun-Ra, they come across Imhotep's remains. At the same time, the cowboys find the Book of the Dead. That night, Evelyn commits the biggest movie mistake of all time, and she reads an ancient evil book out loud. Awakening the evil Imhotep. The group encounters the mummy and decides to leave the area rather quickly. However, with the help of our Weasley little friend Benny, Imhotep follows the group back to town. His ultimate goal being to absorb the life force of the men who summoned him, so he can not only return to life, but have the power to resurrect his lover, Namun. The group deduces that the Book of the Dead brought him back, so maybe the Book of Amun-Ra could kill him. Imhotep kidnaps Evelyn as his sacrifice, and the group attempts to race him back to the city of the dead with the help of a local pilot. Everyone makes it back to Hamunaptra, and our heroes find the Book of Amun-Ra. Imhotep attempts to sacrifice Evelyn, but is thwarted by Rick. Meanwhile, they manage to get the book open. Evelyn reads from it, making Imhotep mortal, to then be officially killed by Rick. Benny lets his greed get the best of him, and he gets stuck inside the tomb, makes some new friends with these flesh-eating beetles, and our heroes ride off into the sunset with newfound love, friendship, and a lot of treasure. Now let's talk about how amazing this movie is. This thing came out in 1999, so on the cusp of CGI starting to become a norm in movies. And it is very impressive how well the effects hold up. I just rewatched this movie, and there were very few moments that looked awkward to me. So kudos to the effects team, because they really did know their stuff. But because this was the new beginning of CGI, most of our actors had zero experience acting across from nothing. So in order to get the appropriate response from people, the crew would tape pictures of the mummies on sticks, so the actors could actually picture what they were acting against. And while we were talking about our mummy, here he is in all of his CGI glory. Do you notice anything unique? Yeah, there isn't any gore. There's no guts. There's no hanging skin. If this movie was made in 2020, there would be a lot of additional pieces here that would make him kind of hard to look at. But it's not that they weren't capable of doing this in 1999. It was a deliberate choice to make this movie with no gore whatsoever. And I have to tell you, I like it better, I think. They make a genuinely intimidating monster using no cheap tricks from that gross out factor. And we all remember how scary the flesh-eating beetles were, and they leave behind these sort of Disneyland-esque skeletal remains. It is a real breath of fresh air to see a movie that could have easily given us a gross out factor, but chose to focus on character development and storytelling, using their talents to entertain us, and not a bucket of blood. Now, despite the story taking place in Egypt, they actually couldn't film any part of this in Egypt, due to the unstable political climate. So they mostly filmed in Morocco and parts of the Sahara Desert. And while there, the production staff had the official support of the Moroccan army. And by their recommendation, the production and Sommers were told to take out kidnapping insurance on the cast members, as there was a real concern that Americans would be targeted and possibly taken by local extremists. The cast had no idea of this potential danger, obviously, and they were only told after filming had wrapped. Now, putting aside the human factor, filming in a desert is not an easy thing to do, as sand gets in everything. Cameras, props, guns. So in a lot of these scenes involving shootouts and fights that are outside, most of these guns would jam and malfunction while filming. So a lot of our gun flashes and smoke are actually done post-production with special effects. And to add even more issues, the risk of dehydration is very real while filming in a desert. The on-site medical staff would have drink breaks every 2 hours, where the entire cast and crew had to drink what they would call a special electrolyte drink. I'm assuming they mean Gatorade, and they just couldn't say the word Gatorade, but it was probably Gatorade. Not to mention snakes, spiders, and scorpions, where several crew members got bitten and airlifted to hospitals for treatment. So despite kidnappers, dehydration, dangerous wildlife, and so much sand, they still managed to create one of my favorite movies from my childhood. It just has such a fun atmosphere. Constantly tiptoeing this line between horror, action, and comedy.
That's my toolkit.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is our dig site.
We got here first.
Having our skin crawling with scary bugs in one scene, to laughing our asses off at Brendan Fraser in the next.
That happens a lot around here.
I miss this type of movie. This movie that was just unapologetically unique and so successful that, according to director Sommers, Universal Studios phoned him the morning after the movie's release, saying, "Make us another one." Which, yeah, I know the second one has CGI Dwayne Johnson Scorpion Man in it, but I still like that movie, and the effects weren't that bad. Okay, I mean, yeah, they were pretty bad, but they had never done any effects like that before, and you know what? We're not talking about that movie right now. We're talking about The Mummy, where Brendan Fraser almost dies. Oh yeah, did that re-pique your interest? Yeah, in this scene where they're hanging him for being a criminal, the crew did something very wrong, and this rope was actually hanging Brendan Fraser. And in Rachel Weisz's words, quote, "He stopped breathing and had to be resuscitated," end quote. The more I learn about this movie, the more it feels like it had no reason to exist. But somehow through all of this, it got made, and it's amazing.
It looks to me like I've got all the horses!
Looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river!
Now, I can't talk movies without talking trivia. And yeah, we all know this. The library disaster was done in a single take, and this worked on the very first try. That would have been a pain in the butt to reset. One of the cloaks lent by the British costume company Angels that was given to an extra to wear was found to be Alec Guinness's cloak in Star Wars: A New Hope. And it is my hope that they took a page from Indiana Jones and put it in a museum.
That belongs in a museum!
At the beginning of the movie, when Imhotep is getting mummified, actor Arnold Vosloo had many a panic attack, as he had to be fully wrapped in this cloth for almost 4 hours on set to film this series of shots. Poor guy. Speaking of Imhotep, in the scene when he summons a sandstorm, does everybody notice how the camera is weirdly cutting off his lower half? That's because the wind machine that they used kept blowing Arnold's cape up, revealing his bare backside to the world. When the plague starts falling on Cairo, our big pieces of hail here are actually white painted pieces of dry dog food. Apparently it's cheap, and it's big enough to actually show up on camera. This dress Rachel Weisz wears during the boat attack became transparent immediately as it got wet. So to keep their PG-13 rating, post-production had to digitally paint her outfit with more white to keep it kid-friendly. Oops. Actor Kevin J. O'Connor could absolutely not get any camel in the movie to cooperate. During several interviews, it was told that for some reason, all the camels on set unanimously just decided to hate this guy. The scene where O'Connell saves Evelyn from the sacrificial slab was filmed with Brendan Fraser fighting against absolutely nothing. All these guys are CGI, so he meticulously choreographed his every movement, and all mummies were added shot for shot with computer-generated images. And that's really impressive. And finally, during the scene where the scarabs are crawling under this guy's skin, the actor chose not to wear any underwear, and his privates kept falling out of his pants, the editors having to cut around this as much as possible. How do we know this? Well, because they missed a scene. It's just a few frames, but yeah.
Plus, I hear the guy hangs dong, and I'm very interested in seeing that.
Me too. Yeah, he hangs dong.
One of the cloaks lent by the British costume company Angels that was given to an extra to wear.
Sell it. Stop.
One of the cloaks lent by the... Oh my god, dog. One of the cloaks... All right, that's all I got for you today, my friends. We're going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. And yes, I realize that sounds way too high. But if you haven't figured it out yet, my rating system doesn't make any sense at all. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you don't already. Make sure to like the video. Leave me some comments. I always love chatting with you all. We will see you on Saturday. And until then, stay happy and stay healthy.